everybody, and welcome to another episode of Breadcast Gaming Talk. Resident Evil 7 was the first Resident Evil game I had ever played, and finally, after playing the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3, as well as attempting Resident Evil 6 and finishing Resident Evil Revelations, I finally have gotten around to finishing playing the sequel to Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, and now I'm going to talk about it. Remember, there will be spoilers. So the story here is quite simple. Ethan, and who you think is his wife Mia, have a baby named Rose. It turns out that Mia was not Mia, in fact it was Mother Miranda, and shit goes south when Chris Redfield decides to shoot up the place and kills who Ethan thinks is Mia. Simply put, Rose gets taken by bad people into this village, and they put Rose's essence or whatever into 4 containers, so part of the game is you finding all 4 parts of Rose and putting her back together. And I am purposefully not giving much plot details away because I think that Village is a story worth experiencing for oneself. So what did I think about Resident Evil Village? Well, it has a lot of good going for it, but I do think that the overall big thing is that the story just feels too bloated, more than it needs to be. Like, not only are we collecting 4 parts to remake Rose, but we also have to go through a bunch of boss fights, some of which don't even lead to acquiring a part of Rose. Speaking of bosses, while they are all unique in how the player, or how they fight the player, taking them down just comes down to avoiding their attacks and shooting the crap out of them until a cutscene happens where they die, and it's really not all that creative for boss fights. Plus, when it comes down to it, some of the weapons you get are not all that necessary or are really only needed for maybe 1 or 2 boss fights. Even though I had the Wolfsbane revolver, I think I pulled it out like 2 times during the entire game. Plus, I only used the grenade launcher on the fish boss fight in the final boss fight, but I never really used it outside of those 2 fights because I didn't really think I needed to. The inventory in this game also is something I didn't quite enjoy very much. Something they removed that was in Resident Evil 7 was the storage chest, and I really wish they had not done that. There were some early game moments before I bought the one inventory upgrade where I had no room for the sniper rifle, which is because there are things that don't stack in your inventory. I had 3 bottles of medicine that were each taking up 1 spot because they don't stack, which is stupid when things like pipe bombs and mines all stack up to like 5 or 6. Now, I had no issue with it once I got the upgrade, but I also sold things off like pipe bombs and mines because I never used any of them. Now, the addition of the Duke was very nice. You know, the ability to just buy ammo whenever you needed was nice. And of course, you do still find ammo and things within your adventure. But, you know, the only downside to it is that they also make it so you can only buy certain upgrades for your weapons and stuff like that. And they did also add, like, the ability to, like, cook. Or, like, you know, you can get, like, meat and things. And make recipes that, you know, can boost you in the game, which I didn't do. It's not necessary for finishing the game. It's just something you can do. Of course, the other thing about Village that is also true for Resident Evil 7 is that Village also rides that line between a horror game and an action game, and it does tend to lean towards more of the action most of the time. Like, there's one section of the game where you have to deal with this creepy baby where they take all your weapons away. The place is super dark and you actually have to hide and avoid the thing from catching you and eating you. And this section felt like an actual horror game, because then after that you fight like a weird doll person. I don't know. But then once you're out and you get your weapons back, you go to the next area and 8 vampires are there. And it just feels to me like the game's like, you know, you haven't shot anything in a while, so have at it. Like, whatever, I guess I get it. Village is a decent game with a decent story that just does feel a little too long. The boss battles were all dealt with the same and were kind of boring, and it's just a lot more shooting and action than it is horror. I still had fun playing the game, and eventually I do want to get the DLC to continue the story. But that's that is the way of Village. Resident Evil Village is a good and enjoyable game. That's all I have to say, so if you like what you see in here, feel free to subscribe. If you want to add the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.